Hello guys, welcome to the Computer Guys videos. In this video I'll be showing you guys how to do the basic or the initial configurations for a freshly installed Windows Server 2016 data center virtual machine. The setting applies mostly for a virtual machine, not for the physical server. I'll be just showing you why for that. So as you can see, we are going to be using the previous virtual machine we installed on the previous video. I'll put the link in the description for that. So we have a virtual machine on VMware Workstation called TestVM. So let's go ahead very quickly and see some settings. Okay. So you can see here we have 2 gigs of RAM, 2 processors, 30 gig hard disk. We have a network adapter. By default, when you install, you will have NAT, but for our purpose, we'll change it to custom specific virtual network. What that will do is it will virtually isolate your virtual machine, so you won't be talking to your host. It will be a separate, isolated, private network. Everything else is the basics here, so we'll cancel that here. One more thing very quickly, let's go back. If you need to add anything else to your virtual machine, let's say if you click add here, you can see we can add more hard drive, we can add another CD, DVD drive, we can add more network adapters if we need it, and we have a few other options, printer, sound card, and other. But nothing that we need to do for right now. So let's go ahead into the virtual machine. The first thing we're going to do is, I think I put it into, did I put it into NAT or, oh, let's go for that, okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the TCP configuration. So for that, let's go to Control Panel and go to Network and Internet. Then let's go to Network Ensuring Center, and on the left hand side we have chain adapter settings. Let's click on that, and as you can see we only have one network adapter, Ethernet 0. That's the one we installed when we were creating the virtual machine. So we'll select that and we'll right click, and from these options we'll click on Properties, and you can see we have a couple of options here. We have IPv4 and we have IPv6. But we are not going to be using IPv6 here, so we have disabled that by unchecking it. Let's go ahead and select Internet Protocol version 4. I will click Properties here. By default, it is set to obtain all the IP information dynamically from a DHCP server, but as of right now we don't have one. So we'll select use the following IP address, and we'll put 192.168.1.2. And for IP address, we will for the subnet mask, we will accept the default settings. But default gateway, default gateway will be your router, where the server will go ahead to communicate outside of the network. We'll select 192.168.1.1. And for the DNS server, we'll put itself 192.168.1.2. You can put an alternate or secondary DNS server if you have in your settings. We'll click OK, we'll close this, and we'll exit out of this window as well. Let's go ahead quickly to command prompt and type ipconfig /all. As you can see, we have Ethernet 0 listed here, and we have the settings that we just configured. We have our IPv4 address, subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server here. So everything else looks good here. CMD. Now let's go ahead. That's the setting we are going to change is assign a name to our server here, host name. So for that, let's click on the Start menu. On File Explorer, let's right click and go to More, and from there let's click on Properties. You can see I already signed a computer name just to show you guys an example, so that when we are assigning a name to our computer, it needs to have at least two things: the location and the purpose for the server. We'll be assuming in this example that our virtual machine is going to be located in Toronto, and it will be acting as our first Active Directory server. So for that, let's change that here to tor for Toronto and AD01. Toronto Active Directory 01 here. We'll click OK here. As you can see, we get a message saying that we must start our computer, but the change to take effect. We'll say OK. We'll close this. Again, we need to restart, but let's just say restart later very quickly. And you can see that it still shows the old name, but it says in the bracket that it will change to Toronto Tor AD01 once we restart the server. So it won't change until we restart. So let's go ahead and do that very quickly. From the region, we'll just select other unplanned. We'll continue. And the second thing we are going to be changing after this is I'll show you guys how to join to a domain and how to enable remote desktop so that we don't have to be physically present in case it was a physical physical server. Okay, let's set Control-Alt-Delete here. Now, if we go to command prompt here, by default the server manager comes up. If we go to command prompt here and we type hostname, we can see that our hostname has changed to Tor81 from UAE DNS01. That's good. Now let's go ahead and show you guys how to put your server in domain, because in production environment almost all of the servers will be connected to your Active Directory domain so that you can centrally manage it. The process is almost similar to changing the name, so let's go to command prompt on File Explorer. Let's right click and go to properties. And you can see we are right now into our workgroup. By default, when you first install an operating system in Windows, it is located into a workgroup, but we need to show you to know how to put into a domain. So we'll click change settings, and we'll click change here, and you can see we have an option here saying member of either a domain or workgroup. We are going to select domain, and let's put in contoso.com. Since we don't have an Active Directory server, contoso.com, when we click OK, it will try to find it, it will try to resolve it, but we don't have it, it will fail. Just a quick overview here. You can see it failed, saying that it could not find an AD domain controller for this guy here. So we'll say OK here, we'll cancel out. But once in your environment, when you have it, it will just restart and you can log in using your Active Directory domain user's account. Now the next thing is to put this virtual machine, enable RDP for this virtual machine. We'll say refresh. The process is similar. So we'll go to start menu, we'll say File Explorer. Actually, we have to go to File Explorer, start menu, right click, and go to properties. And you can see we have an option on upper left, remote settings. Click on that, and you can see we have two options here. By default, do not allow remote connection to this computer is configured. So to test it very quickly, let's go ahead and change the network adapter setting for the virtual machine. We'll click on the virtual machine, and then we'll go to settings. And from the network adapter, we'll select host only, a private network shared with the host. Actually, you know what, we'll say net here. And now it might take 10 to 15 seconds for it to obtain an IP address from the DHCP server. we do ipconfig here, it still has, oh, I just forgot, we need to change it actually so that it gets it dynamically. So we just go back to ipconfig and we change it to get it automatically. So now if we do ipconfig, you can see it got an IP address dynamically. And if we go into our host network, should be able to actually ping it here. One 2.168.179.128. I'd have to disable the firewall. Let's check that right. By default, the firewall is on. We'll turn that off. In the production environment, this is definitely not recommended because you're putting your system at risk. And you can see right away it is able to communicate with our virtual machine. I have to do the same on the host as well. We'll try to see if we can ping our host. But let's find out what type it has first. 64.1, okay. Okay, so we can set up. So right now, if we select, so right now we cannot obviously RDP to it, but to allow that, we will select allow computer remote connection to this computer. You can see a firewall exception will be added. We'll say okay for that. And then we have this option here, allow all connections only from computers running remote desktop with network level authentication. So make sure you have this enabled, and then we can select which users should have the RDP connection allowed for this server, for this virtual server, or we can. So you can see by default the administrator, the local admin for this virtual machine already has access. So we are going to add one more here. But for that, let's go ahead quickly and create. Let's go ahead and create a user here, a local user. Because it is not recommended usually to use the built-in local account. It's usually administrator, and the username is all 50% of the information that a hacker would be looking, and they know that by default administrator is called administrator. So we shouldn't really use that for RDP. We should not do that. So we're going to create a local user called John Smith. Put JSmith for the login name. Full name, let's put John Smith. We'll put a password here. The user cannot change password. You can see we have a username John Smith with JSmith as the username. We'll go out, and we'll go back here to remote desktop user settings. Actually add. You can see that right now it will look for all the users in this computer. If you click on locations, if the system was part of a domain, it will look for. You will have an option here saying your domain name, let's say contoso.com or microsoft.com. But since we are not in the domain, we'll just display the local computer itself. We'll type the username here, JSmith. Let's click on check name to verify it, and you can see it found one. We'll say OK here. You can see JSubmit is listed at the user a lot for RDP. We'll say OK. We'll say apply. We'll say OK here. Now if we try to do remote connection from our host system, we should be able to do that using the IP address I got here. This virtual machine. .168.179.28. We'll just put JSubmit and password. We get the error that warning that the system could not verify it because we don't have a certificate really for it. We'll say, do you want to connect to even with the certificate error? We'll say yes, and as you can see, we have remotely connected to right now. Now if we go back here, let's check it very quickly. Hostname. You can see we're connected to Tor 8001 remotely. We'll sign out from here, because if we click exit out of from this here, it will not log out. The session will still be open. So we'll sign out, and this is how you add, enable RDP and add all the users that. The other thing, we will go ahead and look at the firewall quickly. We know that in our example we disabled, but again for production environment, we should never disable the built-in firewall. You can, we should never do that because you're putting your system at a very big risk here. Especially if you're connected to our internet, that never a good idea. The other thing, the last thing we're going to look at is how to install any application or any rule or any feature, any role or feature that we need to install to our server. So for that, we are going to be using Server Manager. We'll access this through a Start menu. When we go that, we will see Server Manager here. And we can see we have this option, Add Rules and Features. Click on Add Rule and Feature. This is the first window we get, and over here we have two options. We have role-based or feature-based installation, or we have remote desktop services installation. Since we're installing on the local server, the first one, next, and here you can select which computer or workstation you want to install any role that you need to do. But in our example, we only have this Tor 8001, so we'll select that and we'll say next. And you can see we have all those roles here, like Active Directory Certificate Services, DHCP Server, DNS, or IIS Web Server. We'll select next, and then we have all the features that we can add. For example, if we are going to be adding IIS, it needs some features that it cannot work without. So we'll select Add Features, and if we go next, you can see we have a lot of features that we can add here. So some features have more child feature, if you will, that we can enable or disable for that particular one. For example, PowerShell. We can see we have PowerShell installed, we have 5.1, and we have PowerShell ISE installed. If we want, we can use the PowerShell 2.0 engine, but we don't really need it as of right now. And we can say next. It will tell you briefly about what IIS is, and so next. Then here are some full service specific to IIS that we can select. So for example, you can see we have custom logging, tracing, some performance services that we can look at, FTP server that we can use, but we're not really going to be installing it, so we'll select next. And the last thing is to install it. We have one option they have included here from server to restart the once it has successfully installed, if it needs to. So we can select that, and the system will give you a warning saying that once the installation is successfully completed, it will restart without you having to manually install that. So we can say yes, and we can install that. But we are going to cancel this right now because we don't need to. And this example comes to an end. Please subscribe to the channel, leave any comments that you have. I know I'm still very new to YouTube, so if there's something that you want me to improve or something you want me to add to the videos, please let me know in the comments or send me private message. I will definitely welcome that. Any requests you have, anything that you want me to go over, please let me know in the comments, and I will definitely do that for you. But for now, stay safe and have a good day.